There's a moment that happens quietly. You say you don't care about sports, not dislike, not hate, just nothing. And the room shifts, not because you said something offensive, but because you stepped outside a ritual most people don't realize they're inside. Sports are not entertainment. They are emotional anesthesia, a socially approved way to discharge anger, experience victory without risk, feel belonging without intimacy, simulate struggle without consequence. They create intensity without requiring self-examination. For most people, this isn't conscious. It doesn't need to be. Rituals work best when they feel natural. So when someone doesn't care about sports, they aren't rejecting a pastime. They're rejecting a shared sedation. People can forgive hatred. They can debate it, argue with it, mock it. But indifference? Indifference offers no emotional mirror, no shared tension, no symbolic battle, no safe outlet. It exposes something uncomfortable. If you don't need this, then maybe this isn't as necessary as it feels. And that thought destabilizes more than disagreement ever could. Most people don't build meaning. They inherit it. From teams, flags, symbols, group narratives, win-loss cycles they didn't participate in. This isn't weakness, it's efficiency. Borrowed meaning is cheap, immediate, and socially rewarded. But some people can't internalize meaning they didn't suffer for. Victory without effort feels hollow. Loss without involvement feels theatrical. So they opt out, not in rebellion, in silence. Sports creates synchronized emotion. Millions feel the same thing at the same time for the same reason. That synchronization stabilizes societies. It reduces isolation. It delays existential questioning. It keeps people emotionally aligned. People who don't care about sports break synchronization. They remain emotionally unsynced. That creates anxiety, not because they're wrong, but because they are unreachable through the ritual. You can't rally them. You can't recruit them. You can't convert them through hype. They stand outside the emotional current, and systems don't like that. Here's the lie people believe, that those who don't care about sports lack passion. The opposite is usually true. They feel deeply, just not publicly. Intensely, just not performatively. Privately, without an audience. They don't scream, they don't chant, they don't collapse into group emotion. They contain. And containment is unsettling in a culture addicted to release. Sports are built on manufactured stakes. The outcome matters, but only because everyone agrees it does. People who don't care about sports tend to reserve emotional investment for real risk, personal consequence, moral weight, inner transformation. They don't confuse stimulation with meaning. They sense the difference between feeling alive and being distracted from emptiness. And that discernment comes at a cost. Refusing sports doesn't make you superior. It makes you socially inconvenient. You lose easy conversation, default bonding, instant camaraderie, shared outrage, shared joy on demand. You become harder to place, harder to read, harder to include, harder to use as emotional reinforcement. And most people don't dislike you for it. They just don't know where to put you. For many people, sports attachment is imprinted early. It becomes a father's approval, family tradition, a community bond, a permission structure for emotion. For those who don't care about sports, that imprint either never formed on or failed to stick. Meaning was not modeled through spectacle. Validation was not tied to victory. Emotion was internal, not communal. So the ritual never took root. People who don't care about sports often detect something others don't. They feel when emotion is being engineered, amplified, steered, monetized. Crowd psychology doesn't sweep them up. They notice the levers, the chants, the music, the framing, the artificial urgency. And once you see the machinery, surrender becomes difficult. At its deepest level, not caring about sports signals this, a refusal to confuse intensity with meaning. These people don't need external permission to feel, collective validation to matter, symbolic wins to feel whole. They build meaning slowly, quietly, without spectacle, which makes them nearly invisible in a culture obsessed with display. If someone can live without these rituals, what are the rituals protecting others from? Boredom, emptiness, loneliness, existential weight? Sports don't create these things, but they keep people from sitting with them. And silence has a way of forcing confrontation. If you don't care about sports, you're not missing something. You're carrying something, an awareness, a resistance, a refusal to outsource meaning. And in a world built on shared distraction, that will always feel strange. If this felt uncomfortably accurate, comment, "I see it." If you've always felt out of place because of this, comment, "Silence." And if you're still here, you already understand more than most people ever will.